Hey, everybody, welcome to the True Crime Squad. I'm Kristi Brower, here with my sister, co host, and partner in crime, Katie Weaver. Hey, Katie,
Hello.
how's it going?
What's going so good? We had a fun weekend. We went camping in Salmon,
We
Idaho. It
did.
was awesome.
It was really fun. It was BB and Gigi's first camping trip.
Yeah,
And man, they did such a good job. I was really pleased with how well they did. They had a blast. They loved running around inside the motorhome. They had a great time.
they were awesome. They did
They
blood me up a little bit, but it's
Oh,
okay.
I mean, they'll do that. But they were so chill. They didn't even cry. Then when they were in their carrier, when we were like driving and stuff, I don't know.
Mhm.
They're just like, they're built for this, built for it.
It's awesome. And I honor that because when I took my dogs in the motorhome, oh my God, it scared the crap out of them. We have to work out a system because it was not good. We were not in our motorhome this time, though we were with our fifth wheel, but blew a tire on the way home, so that's normal. You
That
had
was
tire
a
trouble
little,
as well, so that also is
we
normal.
did, yes. And that was pretty monumental when we watched a tire on your fifth wheel blow.
Yeah, yeah. Did you see it happen?
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh. We heard
Just
it.
a whole strip came off and it flew right out, right, across the road.
Yeah. Oof. Luckily, Scott is we were prepared. He the day before we left, he went, our spare is old. We ought to just replace it just in case. Well, thank God he did so that we could get home
Hmm.
safely. But anyway, but it was good. Salmon has a group of good lord. I want to say Mennonites,
Amish?
but that's not right.
No,
Amish.
Amish.
Yeah, they have an Amish community. And I was reading about them because I've not seen the Amish and salmon before, but it's been a while since I've been there. It sounds like they moved to town around 2012, and there's about 100 members of their community.
Hmm.
And there's signs on the road, for carriages and whatnot, and they have a store. And we went in their store, and my gosh, that was cool.
Oh my gosh. They had so many fun things. Uh, so many fun things. I bought pickled everything because they
Me
had
too.
everything you could imagine pickled,
Mm-hmm.
which makes me so happy because I love pickled stuff. I got pickled beets,
Mm-hmm.
pickled dilly corn,
Mm-hmm.
and pickled carrots, the hot pickled carrots. Ooh,
Yes.
love them. So yeah, that was really fun.
Oh, their store was amazing. And we were told
Hmm.
you go on Saturdays because that's the day they make the donuts. My God.
Hmm.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
Yes, indeed.
yeah, very very good donuts.
Yeah, it was great. And then today we spent the afternoon in the mountains picking huckleberries. So
Oh, you
that's good
did?
too. Hmm.
You were picking really?
Hmm.
I guess it's August 5th. What am I
'Tis the
thinking? It is
season.
Huckleberry time.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
We picked about a third of a coffee can full. It takes forever to pick huckleberries, but they're so worth it. So, yeah. So that's what's up.
Yeah, yes they are. This is about the time I go to the farm stand I go to and buy some huckleberries.
Uh-huh.
I ain't picking them. Can't do it.
So much work, my gosh. So
Yeah.
much work. But it was gorgeous up there. It was like 15 degrees cooler than it is down in
Oh,
town. We were so
nice.
hot. So, anyway, yeah, all good stuff.
That's fantastic. Yes, we've seen what's going on in the UK and it is terrifying.
Mhm.
Um it is so scary. And I hope
Yeah.
all of you are safe. And gosh, I hope some reason lands with these folks who are attacking people for absolutely no reason because
Oh
they
my
got the whole
gosh.
story wrong. It sucks.
Yeah, sounds a little like what happened with the Olympics, huh?
Mm, yeah.
I think it's a great cautionary tale for all of us to be careful what you believe at first blush and to do
Hmm.
more research because,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll say this about, the Olympics stuff that has happened when we're talking about the Algerian boxer who was accused of being a man who is not a man, who
No.
received worldwide hate and threats and ugliness because somebody
Strangers across the land
will not.
commenting on this person's gender and physical
Mhm,
body. So stupid.
mhm, and so many people
God,
just jumping on the
why do we have to
bandwagon,
do this kind of stuff?
yeah, without learning the truth and just believing the first bit of propaganda that came past. Oh my gosh, it has been so frustrating. So
Yeah.
essentially, we actually know very little, but that's been confirmed. But from what the Olympic Committee is saying, she has potentially higher than normal testosterone because of she has Swires, or it's assumed that she has Swires disease. So she has high testosterone, as does one of the other Olympians, female Olympians. This woman
Happens.
is a woman. She was born a girl. She has been raised a girl. She has always been a girl. She lives in a country where it's illegal to be transgender, but
I
she,
know. Those
because,
accusations literally risk her life.
yeah, but a little Italian boxer that boxed her in 45 seconds managed to get her ass kicked and withdrew and then cried in front of the media that she's never been hit harder in her life and she shouldn't have to fight a man. Well, that's all it took, or something along those lines. Don't take what I said for at face value. You should look it up yourself.
But it was
Uh,
something like that.
but it was something along those lines, and the whole world was set on fire that we have men beating up women in the Olympics, which is entirely untrue. But the hate that has come at this girl is just unfathomable
It
from
is. It's
people.
ridiculous.
Boy, I'm seeing it all over my Facebook. I am so tired of it. People that are just they want to believe that's true, so it's true, and they don't want to listen to the truth of the matter at all. They just want to believe that that's true because oh, transgenders, and start these things, and it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible.
It is. Yeah. That was disgusting and very
Hmm.
frustrating. And, I mean, you want to be a spoiled sport at the Olympics? I mean, grow up. Come
Hmm.
on. This is the Olympics. Not everybody's
Well,
going to win.
how can you be that soft and be a boxer at the Olympics? How?
Agreed. Yeah. Well, and like Sherry said, so do I. High testosterone, PCOS. Right.
Hmm.
Lots of women have high testosterone
Yeah.
for various reasons.
Hmm.
Like, stop commenting on other people's bodies. Jesus.
But maybe she just worked harder than you. Maybe she's just
Yeah.
busted her ass to get here because the last Olympics she was at, she didn't do very well. So maybe she spent the last 4 years busting her butt to get to where she's at, and she did hit you hard because she's been working hard. Maybe
Yeah.
you didn't. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know, but it's
Awful.
awful. Although
But
Bethy says that pole vaulting is now her favorite, and
oh
me too,
no.
Bethy. I mean, if you know, you know,
Hmm.
because
Hmm. A
well,
French pole
feel free.
vaulter. Well, yeah, a French pole vaulter had a little run in with the bar with his wiener, and that ended the jump. It's his wiener yanked it down. So he's yeah. He said in an interview, "It's a big disappointment, oh, honey, enormous, actually." I,
The memes, the comments
this poor guy.
have literally
Yeah.
killed me. I
Hmm.
hope he can take it in stride and let it be funny.
Yeah.
Which pole, Spirit says? Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Which
Hmm.
pole? Oh
I
my God.
saw
The
somebody call
video
it a
is
hog
the best thing
whistle.
I've ever seen.
A hog whistle.
That
That
was
was new.
new for me.
Me too. Yeah. Yeah. So sucks for
Yeah.
him. Really super sucks for him, of course.
Somebody
But
commented on it. Well, I hope they both win.
yeah.
Oh, you guys.
Yeah. It's true. The world record was broken by Sweden, so there's that. So, it's
That kind of got overshadowed by Big Wiener Guy, though, because I've watched that video. I've seen it. It's shown up on every social media
oh
I
my
have. I
gosh.
don't even know how many times. It's so freaking funny.
Me too. My daughter
Poor
accused me
man.
of being obsessed because she's constantly hearing it on my socials. I'm like, it's just hair. Like, I'm not looking for it. It's just, it's a huge story right now, you know?
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Okay, several of you wanted to know what a huckleberry is.
Oh, yeah.
This is a huckleberry. They only grow above 6,000 feet. They are
Well, I mountain huckleberries,
mountain
Rocky Mountain
huckleberries.
huckleberries.
Yeah. So these are mountain huckleberries. Yeah, they only grow about above 5 to 6,000 feet, and they are like tiny blueberries. Only they're a lot more tart.
Hmm.
They're and we've learned from eating huckleberries from other regions that ours are they have a very specific taste, which is really interesting and
Yeah.
not surprising. I prefer ours.
Because they're farmable and are grown. People grow them in their yards and stuff. We've learned that from you guys.
Hmm.
But they are not anything like the ones that grow. You can't farm
Where we
these. They
live,
have to.
no.
They have to be above 5,000 feet
Hmm.
to grow, and
Yep.
they're our favorite.
Yeah. Yep.
We have to
We
have a couple desserts at the holidays out of them every year. It's very important.
we're actually having huckleberry cheesecake tonight.
Oh my
Mar-
God! Shut up! You
Mars is
are.
insisting. Yeah. Well, you
Wow.
know where I live. You know where I live.
I do. Damn it.
I mean, you could come up here and have a piece, you know. At any rate, yeah, yeah. So we're excited. Our grandmas took us when we were little girls. That was in the summer. Everybody went and picked, and you
Mhm.
were not allowed to sit and just eat them all because it's really tempting. You had to put them in your bucket. You had to pick, and
And they're
then,
so little. I mean, you got to pick
hmm
a million of them to.
hmm and then they'd make
Yeah.
jam out of them. They would freeze a lot of them for the holidays for huckleberry cheesecake. Yeah, they're
Now that
special.
I'm grown up, I go buy them from someone who picked them, and I pay a
Hmm.
ridiculous amount of
Oh yeah,
money for them,
I think the
and I
going
don't
price this
care.
year is $120 a gallon.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're very
I'll buy a
expensive.
quart, and I'll probably pay $30 for it or something.
Hmm.
It'll be
But a quart
crazy.
will make two cheesecakes.
It will. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It has. It has carried over. Oh,
Linda
Huckleberry
says
Hound.
Huckleberry
Yeah.
Hound. It's the only huckleberry she knows of. Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh,
Brandy
Brandy knows
says
where
she
you
knows
live
where I
too.
live too. That's right.
She's coming for your cheesecake.
Like a thief in the night comes for the cheesecake.
All right. Well, we have a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
And Katie, I'm just going to let you kick it off with a crime news update.
Yes. Well, Sarah F. Boone has been back in court. She had some handwritten filings for the judge. And if they're out there, I don't know where. I have searched and searched the internet. However, we do know what some of them said and basically what she was in court for. But she wanted some funds and she wanted to say she doesn't really want to be pro se anymore and never wanted to anyway. Uh, so basically, what she wanted is like to get a public defender that assists her. So I'm going to give you a
Hmm.
3-minute clip of what the judge said to that, and then we'll go from there. Well, perhaps, oh, there we go.
The court's rulings this morning.
First off, I did not forfeit my rights. That was your judgment. And also, I feel that I should have had some type of evidentiary hearing prior to your decision, so I could have better explained myself and you could have had a better understanding. So by you denying my standby counsel, which thank you to him for explaining to me what specifically it is, I don't want to be pro se any longer, so I didn't want to be pro se in the first place. And again, you, in my opinion, unlawfully denied me or didn't even suggest an evidentiary hearing in order for me to avoid or try to go about a solution or remedy that you would understand. So I don't know if it's me either wasting your time or anybody else's time, if it's even an opportunity, or if it's just something that is denied, period.
It is denied, period.
Thank you.
With regard to an evidentiary hearing, that seems to be in the realm of a Ferretta inquiry where a criminal defendant is seeking to represent themselves. And I would inquire of that person and have an evidentiary hearing as to the rights and remedies that you were forfeiting and the pros and cons of proceeding representing yourself and the benefits of being represented by counsel. Due to the Florida case law that was provided in the 16-page order, no such evidentiary hearing is required.
My understanding was the hearing, the Ferretta hearing, is in regards to competency as opposed to having an understanding before you take someone's rights away.
Ferretta pertains to a criminal defendant's seeking to represent themselves. Ferretta was not applicable to your situation, and that's identified in the case law citations that were provided in the 16-page order.
Yes, I understand. It was the day of that I was explained most of all of this, and as opposed to prior, so I would know what happened or could happen. So my understanding is one thing, and then the explanation is another. So I'm just confused and feel that I should have had an opportunity prior to all of this to explain myself and to have a better understanding. So now my belief was that the Ferretta hearing was simply competency. So the evidentiary hearing I thought would be a collaboration of the information of why I wrote my letters in order for you to remove my right to counsel. That, in my opinion, I felt that it was a type of retaliation by the court because you did not understand or attempt to understand any of my letters that I wrote previously, which was for the intervention of the judge and or the court to avoid any of this with me sitting in front of you presently.
Do you have any other questions, ma'am, as to the court's rulings this morning?
First off,
It's retaliation, Judge.
Guys, I think she's in pro se, like in cell, involuntary pro se, like involuntarily celibate. Oh my God.
Apparently, yes. It's too hard. And I never wanted to be pro se, and I did not forfeit my right to an attorney. But the judge says after 8 tries, yeah, you did. Funny, Sarah, it seems like over and over again you keep finding out that there are consequences for your actions.
She is yet to be able to accept that, which is really strange. You'd think at some point it would be like, okay, I can't keep up the game. But
Right?
no.
Yeah. It's so wild. Yeah, it'll probably have to be another verse of Sarah's letters. The fact, honestly, this judge has been so incredibly patient with her. The fact that she's trying to claim that this is just retaliation by the court is crazy.
Yeah, it's
And
ridiculous.
she did have a win. He did grant her an extra week for her trial. So she did have a win, though he did flatly say, no, you don't get an attorney to come help you because you've already burned that bridge and we're not going back there. So this was a part of one of her briefs. Comes now Sarah Boone, pro se, indigent defendant, respectfully requests from the court immediate relief by providing effective standby counsel with all legal services allowed and included to assist and aid the defendant as a whole in the complex, vital procedural preparation with professional guidance during her forfeited right to counsel by the court as pro se attorney and her proposed lawful representation of self in her criminal case. And that's what the judge said. No, we're not doing it. You burned the bridge.
I don't think there are any
Not
public
coming back.
defenders left. She's been through them all. He doesn't hate them enough to start again at the beginning. Like, I mean,
They're pretty much all like, new phone, who dis?
yeah.
No, can't do it.
The way she speaks to the judge, she's so disrespectful and tries to tell him what certain hearings are. And he's like, no, bitch, this is what this hearing is. And if you don't know, that's because you did this to yourself.
Mm-hmm. So, also, she does have There's a private investigator working for Prison Break Investigations that has already been appointed to the case. And there's also been money for a mental health expert that has already been approved, but I'm sure that's not what she wants.
Of course not.
One of her motions read, and this was the motion for funds: investigator, TBD, total amount requesting, TBD, how to calculate, unknown by defendant, reason, no discovery or case materials provided to defendant from the judge, which is true. The judge said they are still trying to figure out how to make all of these documents available to her in a way that she can use them. So it's true that they have not given her discovery, and they really do need to do that ASAP.
Yeah.
But my goodness, Sarah just keeps Sarah-ing.
She
Well,
sure does.
Sarah,
Yes, Kat.
gosh.
You're right. This judge does need a combat bonus.
It's true. Yeah. Yeah, Grant said mental health expert will say she's an annoying Karen. Oh my goodness.
I mean, they
Can
might
you
say she
imagine,
has
like,
a personality disorder, but it's not that she
yeah.
doesn't understand.
Oh
She
no.
does.
And actually, she has a pretty good grasp. Uh, in her own words, at one point, she had written that she is a straight A student and is good at everything she tries, which was kind of wild because she was an unemployed alcoholic when she murdered poor Jorge. So I'm not sure about that, Sarah. I'm not so
Maybe
sure
she
about that.
was a straight A student. I don't think she's been in school recently.
Mhm.
Kathy says they gave her the discovery today at court.
Oh, did they? Okay, by the end
Oh,
of
good.
court. I know the judge had said they were discussing, how to get it to her correctly. Partly because it's not good enough for her to have to ask to see it. She wants to be able to, when she's awake at 2 a.m., be able to be reviewing things. So
Yeah, I don't think they're going to do that.
if this was Daybell Vallow, I would understand this a little bit more. But this case is so open and shut.
Yeah, there's not that much discovery, really,
No, I'll bet
that's relevant. She's wanted all kinds of shit that's not relevant, but
yeah, yeah. Right? She's good at murder. She was good at tricking someone into a suitcase so that she could kill them. Yeah, she was good at that. Uh, his poor family, they just desperately need this to be over. They deserve it. It also makes me wonder, like, I would love to talk to people who knew her before this. Like, no way in hell she just became this person. She's always been this person. Like,
yeah,
I
she's
wonder
always been
what
this
she
way.
was like in junior high, and what kind of friend group she ran with or didn't run with, or what kind of landlord, or sorry, what kind of tenant she was, what kind of an employee she was. I want to hear those things because I'll bet
Right.
people could tell stories about Sarah that would absolutely boggle your mind and also be fully understandable. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so Kathy said she could only use the laptop from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. and she's pissed about that. Right. She wants to have unfettered 125 or 100% access at all times. So,
And I
yeah, or
mean, she
24/7
seems
access. I
to
think that's what my brain was
just
trying
not
to
take
do.
this seriously that she is in jail awaiting a murder trial. She
Mhm.
doesn't just get whatever she wants. She did
No.
this.
No.
She's had 9 attorneys. My God.
Mhm.
Most people only get 1.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 if it's death penalty, but holy hell.
Mhm. Well, 8. Hasn't she had 8 attorneys? I think it's 8, but still.
Well, it's 8 public defenders, but she hired an attorney
Oh,
initially, but
that's
then couldn't
right.
afford them.
Mhm. And probably didn't like what they had to say too,
Oh, I'm sure.
because
I would imagine most of them have been like, you should take a plea.
You're screwed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those videos do it all and say it all. Yep. Do you think she was the Queen Mean Girl? I don't. She's
I
too
think she was
weird.
like a weird, nerdy girl.
Hmm. That knew how to infiltrate herself into groups and make everybody hate each other.
She was like the gossip that was always around that knew the dirt on everybody
Hmm.
because she sort of was kind of invisible and people
Hmm.
didn't really think that she was a threat, but she definitely was. That's
Yeah.
my impression.
Me too. Yeah. So I guess in a sense that is Queen Mean Girl. But I doubt she was a popular girl. She does not strike me as that at all.
No,
Yeah.
no. I bet just the opposite. She's she's too abrasive.
Hmm. But it wouldn't surprise me at all if she wasn't in debate club.
Yeah, I mean she speaks well.
And she writes well, also. I mean, it's bananas, but still, like, she's pretty solid on spelling, grammar, you know. She has the
Yeah,
fortitude to write 56-page letters and things. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean that is some skill.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll keep an eye on that. Also, her full hearing we'll have posted later on tonight so that you can go back and watch it if you want to. It was way too long for this show, but you can go see it if you'd like. But with that, I'm going to kick the mic over to you for our main case.
Hmm. So I have watched the Nicholas Rossi doc. It's called Rossi, A Fugitive Faking Death. It is a British production. And I mean, it was good in a lot of ways. I learned some things I didn't know. Uh, Man, there are some characters in this story, some very interesting folks. So I'm going to kind of give you the rundown of some of the things that we learned and share a couple of things with you. But I'm just going to start with a little video that is the last scene. It's the end scene of this documentary. Um, this is David Rossi, who I will forever and always now refer to as Gargamel. You'll see why. But he looks just like Gargamel, you guys. If you know, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You know. If you're not old like me, maybe you don't know who Gargamel is, but I hope you do. Anyway, just watch this.
Pack your bags, son. You're going to jail. Time to pay the piper. What goes around comes around. You ruined your life. Now you're paying the price.
Thank you.
The only thing I can say to Nikki is this. All your bags are packed. You're ready to go. You're standing there outside your door. You're leaving on a jet plane. Don't know when you'll be back again. Bye, Nick.
So that is David Rossi, who is actually Nick Rossi's adoptive father. He adopted him when he was a little boy. He, you may remember, is an is the number one
Oh.
Engelbert Humperdinck impersonator.
Mm-hmm.
He says Engelbert Humperdinck, who is a British singer, said that that David Rossi's voice was the very closest to his of all of the impersonators out there of him. Which are there a lot? I have no idea. But if you will recall, one of Nick's many complaints is that when he was in jail in Scotland, they were making fun of him. They were bullying him, Your Honor. He was being bullied. But what they were doing is they were singing Leaving on a Jet Plane to him because they knew he was in the process of being extradited. So then his dad sings that, right?
That was
at the end of the
classic.
documentary. It was
Very
classic.
funny.
It was really the only actual comedic opportunity the whole documentary took, which is really unfortunate because, as you know, we have seen a lot of humor in this. Now,
Yeah.
not in the horrible crimes that he committed, but in the horrible person that he is. Really, really funny. Yeah. So this really cracked me up. So this one's on Peacock. It's called Rossi, Fugitive fakes his death or something like that.
But
I do
real
recommend
quick on
it.
David. Yeah, Gargamel vibes for sure.
Yeah, do you see why? I was like, I've got all these notes I'm taking while I'm watching this, and I've got Rossi down, and then I write / Gargamel because I'm like, yeah, that's Gargamel right there. And it's not even a diss; it's just a reality.
Mhm.
Um, right? I never did see his cat Azrael, but maybe who knows? But yeah, his dad totally trolled him.
Mhm.
The stuff with David Rossi was really well Gargamel. Okay, I'm just going to call him that. With Gargamel in this documentary is really interesting because he's the guy who knew him as a little kid, and um he'd say when he saw the pictures of him when they first identified him in Scotland after he was supposedly dead. When
Mhm.
he saw the first picture of him, he said, "That's my Nicky."
He always knew he wasn't dead, though, right? I mean, nobody believed it.
Well, he kind of thought he was. He
Did he?
wasn't sure. It turns out that Nick has been a psychopath his whole life. I mean, the kid was a nightmare. He used to beat up his mother, like seriously beat up his mother. They had all kinds of trouble with Nick. Famously, Gargamel beat the crap out of Nick at Disney World one time. And it is because Nick was beating the crap out of his mother and would not stop. And
Really?
Gargamel said that he just lost it. He said they had been having so many problems with this kid and he would not stop. And he broke his jaw and broke his nose and knocked out some teeth and put him in the hospital. And
Yeah.
Gargamel went to jail. And then Nick's mother, Debbie, she showed up at court with all the documentation of all the treatment facilities and all the shit that this kid had been in and all the trouble that they had with him. And the judge let him go.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, it was terrible. You should never beat up a kid. I
No.
think Nick was 12 at the time. You should never do any of that.
No.
But he said that it's very interesting because he speaks of Nick fondly and he still sees him as his son and he loves him. But he also says that he was born bad, that he was difficult from the very beginning. Nick's biological father, that's where the name Alaverdian comes in. So Jack Alaverdian was Nick's biological father. Gargamel describes him as a psychopath. He went to prison when Nick was small. And you just keep hearing gargoyle. No, it's Gargamel from the Smurfs. Do y'all know what that means? Anyway, Jack Alaverdian, he's dead, but he's long dead. But he went to prison for violent crimes. He was a psycho. He was really, really scary. And according to Gargamel, Nick is just like him. You know.
That sounds pretty accurate, unfortunately.
So, a key player in this documentary that we didn't know a whole lot about leading up to this is Arthur Knight's wife, Miranda Knight.
Yes.
What to say about Miranda? I have a lot of things to say. She talked about how shocked she was when. So here's how they knew he wasn't dead. Let me just jump back and explain this. So they knew he wasn't dead because an attorney named Ronald Kozar. Let me show you a picture. Ronald Kozar. This is Ronald Kozar. I couldn't find a very good picture of him. But this guy right here, he already knew about Nick. Nick was already a registered sex offender when he faked his death. He was actually a registered sex offender for a case that happened in Ohio. And that case was a sexual assault that Nick committed against a student named Mary.
Yeah.
And Mary reported him, and he was arrested, and he was charged and tried and convicted. Now, and he was put on the sex offender registry for 15 years for that case. And then he turned around, Nick Rossi turned around and sued Mary
Yeah.
for like defamation and shit. after he'd been convicted, right? So Ronald Kozar was Mary's attorney. He represented her in this
Interesting.
ridiculous defamation case. So in the defamation case, the judge took one look at the case and went, "Are you kidding me?" and threw it out. Like, this is total bullshit. But Kozar was like, this guy is dangerous. I'm going to keep an eye on him. So he had been kind of following him through the news and watching for him and seeing other things he'd been in trouble for. And he saw the whole thing when Nick faked his death and all of that stuff happened. So one day he came across Nick's Wikipedia page.
I know this.
Was a raft of bullshit that you cannot imagine. It was clearly written by him, although he had put a photo on it of someone. It was written by Nick, clearly. But there was a photo. The photo wasn't him.
Yeah.
But it was all of this, you know, all of his accomplishments and all these wonderful things that he's done and blah, blah, blah. And there was no criminal history on it. Well, apparently Ronald Kozar really enjoys editing Wikipedia articles with information that he knows about people because of his job. And so he's like, okay. So he edits it because it was open. And he puts in a real picture of Nick Rossi. And then he adds a criminal history section and puts it all in. He goes back a few hours later on the same freaking day. And supposedly at this point, Nick's dead, right?
Yeah.
Goes back on the same day. Picture changed back. Criminal history gone. Wikipedia page now somehow locked so that he can't edit it. And he went, holy shit.
This bastard's
He's
alive.
not dead. So he let some people know that, hey, by the way, this guy is not dead. And so they started circulating photos of him, like through Interpol and, you know, all the places that the police do stuff like that. They were circulating this photo. This is a booking photo of Nick. And then they were also circulating the tattoo photos. This one. And this one.
Man, nurses are good. They are great tattoo artists. That's all I can say.
Right. And at this point, Nick is on a ventilator in intensive care in a hospital in Scotland with COVID, and flashing across the screen, under the name Arthur Knight, of course, flashing across the TV screen is that mugshot and those tattoos. And the nurse goes, wait a minute. That guy is in our intensive care. So she calls the authorities and reports that he is there. The police come and they basically they take him into custody, sort of. He can't quite leave the hospital yet because, you know, he's sick, and of course he fakes a lot of shit. But but they know where he is.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things they did while he was still on a ventilator is a detective came in and took his fingerprints. And they shared those fingerprints with a fingerprint expert who also had Nick's fingerprints from his booking in the U.S. and compared them, and they are an exact match. So they've got the tattoos, they've got the fingerprints, and they eventually do have DNA because they had DNA from the first sexual assault case. And it all just lines right up perfectly that, this is Nick Rossi.
Definitively.
And
yeah.
And he's wanted all over the United States for a bunch of crimes.
Yeah.
No question whatsoever. So we know, they go through a lot of drama in Scotland because they got to go through and prove that he is the guy that they are trying to extradite. And it's a big deal You know, like they got to be sure if they're going to do an international extradition, they want to make
Yeah.
sure they have the right person.
Sure.
So this is when Miranda Knight comes in. She is Arthur Knight's wife.
Uh-huh.
And she's interviews with her that journalists have done are all over in the documentary. Now, she did not participate in this documentary at all. And I'll save it for the end. She said she was the total bombshell. The total bombshell in this documentary. I will tell you at the end. The police came, they kicked her out of his hospital room, and then they wheeled him off to the police station. And she said she was totally shocked. She had no idea what was going on. We were a normal couple. We were happily married. This is blah, blah, blah. This couldn't possibly be him. He's not that person, you know, blah, 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 right?
But how
So
could they have been married?
Oh, they were married. There are photos of them being married.
Right, but I mean, how could they have been officially married? Does he have documents?
He's got fake documents, yeah.
He's got fake documents?
So he had an Irish driver's license under the name Nick Brown that he was using. That was one of the other pieces to the puzzle when they finally tracked him down, was that it was a photo of him. But he was going by Nick Brown. But see, he took her last name
Right.
when they got married and became Arthur Knight. So then a couple of reporters in the UK get on this story like, holy shit. You know, Mark Horn is one of them that he's done a whole bunch of stories on this. So he hears about all of this, and this guy's got 16 aliases that it's believed he faked his own death. You know, and so he's like, I got to get in on this. And so he starts, because what happens is Nick gets arrested and then they let him go home because he's, you know, sick.
Yeah.
So they release him on bail. So Mark Horn gets the chance to go to their house to interview him. And when he gets to the house, it's total chaos. They have two dogs, Toby, who is a beagle, and Oscar, who is a toy poodle, who immediately attacks Mark Horn.
Oh, no.
Draws blood. And then in every video, you see Miranda holding little Oscar with a muzzle on. I bet you see that 10 times in this. I was dying over the poodle with the muzzle on. It's so funny. Anyway, so Mark Horn is like, all right, I'm getting in there. I got to figure out what's going on here. So he kind of gets with him and he tells Arthur, I'm going to let you tell your story, you know? He says he was nervous to go there for the first time because he's, you know, was supposedly some kind of master criminal. He said he looked like a combination between Orson Welles and Henry VIII. Sitting in his chair. He's wearing his oxygen thing.
Of course, yes.
And he speaks like this. I only say one word at a time through his oxygen mask. That's how he spoke the whole time. It was so insane. He made it sound like that he didn't have enough breath to speak more
enough
than
air.
once.
Yeah.
But it was so, you know, and Mark's like, oh my God, you know, I don't think he was expecting this, but you know, at this point, Nick is really playing up the sick, I had COVID situation. He's using a wheelchair everywhere. You've seen probably some of the videos, like one time on a TV interview, he tries to stand up and falls down and is in his chair and all that shit.
Yes,
you know, he's such a faker. Mark thought his accent was weird.
Yeah.
That he couldn't really place the accent. What is this? And then he was just so out of breath, he could only say one word at a time. So Nick tells him, as Arthur, that he grew up in an orphanage in Ireland. and that he escaped to London at 14,
Oh.
and that he just sold things to survive.
Oh,
Mark
of
is a
course. Yeah.
little skeptical of, like, how did you just do that? Like, how did you live? And he asked about, well, are there any, because he supposedly escaped with a group of boys, and did he, well, are any of them still around? Well, of course, no, they're not, and all this stuff. There's no way for him to confirm any of this shit.
Yeah.
And, Miranda's sitting there with him, just hook, line, and sinker, buying it all. He denies everything, that he is not this man. Oh, he did have, it's real oxygen. You can hear it. Like, he's wearing an oxygen mask, it's hooked to a tank. But in a lot of these interviews, you can hear it running. He does have it running. Sometimes he doesn't have a tank, but he wears the mask anyway, which is
Yeah.
fucking hilarious.
Or the tank not
Also,
turned on at
the
all. Yeah.
tattoos gone. When he got bail from Scotland, he must have gone immediately into, like, extensive tattoo removal, because his arms are
Wow.
totally clean.
Wow.
They even had the nurse that reported it. They brought her into court as part of the identification process to say that she most certainly did see the tattoos,
Yeah.
because they're not there now.
By the way, real
Let's
quick,
see.
in case you're wondering, this is Gargamel.
Yes, there's Gargamel from the Smurfs.
This is the bad guy from the Smurfs. Yep.
Yeah. Yes, Tubbs, I agree. The whole story about him was very Oliver Twist type story about him being an orphan and all that stuff. Yeah, like, it's all BS. Let's see. Then we go to Brian Coogan. Do y'all remember who Brian Coogan is? Brian Coogan is a former politician. I can't remember. In Rhode Island. This is him.
Oh, yes.
And
Okay.
so Brian knew Nick when he was a teenager. So Nick spent quite a bit of time in foster care because his parents could not handle him. They tried everything with that kid and couldn't handle him. And so he would end up in the system. And Brian Coogan got to know him. And, Brian had 5 children and wanted to make Nick his 6th child. He called him his 6th son. And he said that Nick would have made a great politician, that he spent a lot of time at the State House with Brian, and that he was so smart. And he actually read the bills, unlike, most of the people that Brian was in the State House in Rhode Island with. Very interesting. So at first, he really had, like, this relationship with him where he wanted to adopt him. And Nick calls him up one day from the courthouse, and he tells him, you have to adopt me. You have to adopt me today. They're trying to send me away. So Brian, totally sucked in by this bullshit, because at this point, he believes that Nick has been terribly abused in foster care.
Right.
Nick is telling these terrible stories about being abused and being tortured and all this stuff in foster care. And in the let me back up just a minute. In the midst of that, Nick meets a columnist named Bob Kerr, and Bob Kerr wrote a story with the help of Nick about the Department of Children, Youth, and Families in Rhode Island, and about the abuse going on in the foster care system. Nick told him he was involved in this night-to-night placement where he would spend the night at a foster home, then he would be taken to the DCYF office for the day, and then he would spend the night in another foster home that night. Nobody actually thought to, I don't know, validate
Check on
these
that?
statements?
Yeah.
So Nick got a lot of publicity for this, and, everybody thought he was so cool. And Bob said that Nick reminded him of Bobby Kennedy and thought he would be a politician someday. Like, Nick had some charisma.
We're
that
so
sucked in
lucky.
some of these guys.
So lucky he did not.
Yeah. So then the whole thing happens where he calls Brian Coogan, and he's like, they're sending me away.
Yeah.
So He goes over to the courthouse and meets with the judge on this case with Nick, and he's like, I'll take him. It's okay. I'm going to adopt him. You don't have to send him to another state. I'll do it. And he sends Nick out, and Judge Jeremiah,
Uh-huh.
because of course, man, just like Judge, sort of.
Yeah.
He tells Brian Coogan that all of this shit that Nick has been telling him is the very things that Nick has been doing to other kids in foster homes, and that his injuries that he has shown Brian are self-inflicted. He inflicts injuries on himself, then he inflicts injuries on other kids, and then he tries to blame this on the foster system, but that they have documented multiple times that it's actually him doing it. And that he had basically run through every placement in Rhode Island. They didn't have anything left for him. And he told Brian Coogan, he said, if you adopt this kid, it will destroy your marriage and it will ruin your family. And Brian Coogan went, okay, I mean, he's a nice kid and all, but I
gotta go.
I gotta go. Yeah. He did stay in contact with Nick, though, which was interesting. He has stayed in contact with Nick over the years. And he did not believe that Nick was dead when Nick faked his death. He didn't. By this point, he understood what a psychopath Nick is. So then we get to a woman named Nafiska, and she owns Nafiska's Garden. It was gonna be a business, guys. It was going to be a vegan cheese business, starting with vegan Parmesan cheese. Okay. So she finds a man named Nicholas Brown on LinkedIn, who is a Harvard grad and an international lawyer. And yet he's looking for jobs in PR. And unfortunately, this woman being a bit slightly gullible, I think, because why would you fall for that? Why, with those credentials, why would he be working in PR? You know what I mean? Like, it was just weird. So she hires him to build her a website, and they're going to start this big international business, and they're going to do an online TV show with all of her cooking, with her vegan cheeses and all this stuff, right? And she pays him to work on this, and every time she asks for any, like, hey, where are you at? What do you, someone's sick. His wife is sick. His dogs are sick. He's sick. Blah, blah, blah. Well, the third month rolls up, and she has paid this guy $40K already.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And she's like, still haven't seen anything from you. And he's like, well, I've just had this, and I'm working today with the flu on a Saturday. And, all the just bullshit. And she finally gets it. But this guy is not going to do anything. And so she tells him, there will be no more payments until you can actually show me the website that you built for me. So he launches a 2-year smear campaign against her. She, he took the website that was supposed to be her business website and put her driver's license number or driver's license photo up on it and just says a bunch of ignorant shit about her and tries to extort her basically into paying him a settlement, or he'll continue. And she actually paid a private eye to find him and figure out who he was, and that's because he was going under the name Nicholas Brown when she hired him. So she figured out who he was, and she said it went on for 2 years. It was absolutely terrible.
Oh.
But it wasn't the only time that he's been an asshole.
Well, yeah, no, not even close.
So then we have Michelle in the UK. Michelle is one of the cases that is still pending against him. She met him on an online forum. They got to talking. She thought he was He was portraying himself as a Harvard-educated lawyer, or not lawyer, lobbyist.
Oh,
You know how
yes.
he is. He's big on being Harvard-educated. We all know
Mhm.
that wasn't true.
Well, and lobbyist is something he used quite a bit. Yeah.
Yes. He portrayed himself as Nicholas Rossi and Nicholas Aliverdian with her. I'm not sure why that wasn't a red flag for her, unfortunately. But they started talking. He started immediately pushing like a relationship right away. And she was like, well, let's go a little slow. And he's like, well, I could just move there. And she's like, well, we haven't even met in person, you know? Maybe you could come
Mhm.
here and we could meet, but and like he's all like, oh, I could just do this work and that work there and stuff. And she's like, well, you can come and visit, but this is short term. I'm
Mhm.
not interested in anything long term. So he shows up at her doorstep and won't leave her house for 5 months.
Oh, no.
Yeah. He
Oh,
immediately
God.
needed money, insisted on money to help him get settled.
So is this the moment where, well, no, because he faked his death later. Okay, never mind. Go ahead.
Yeah. So he's pressuring her for money. Um, he's also trying to get her to dress better because she doesn't quite fit in with him. And he's just a
Oh,
dick. And the longer he's there, the more abusive he is. She tries to get him to leave. He guilt trips her. It's the whole like cycle of domestic violence happening over
mhm.
and over with them. And then one day he refused to let her leave the house and he
Oh,
sexually assaulted her.
Nick, you motherfucker.
So, but this is 5 months in.
Yeah,
So she goes to the police and the police actually help her. I
good.
felt bad for her too, Jess. This was
What a
sad.
nightmare.
The police basically said he was gone and the police said change the locks, take all of his belongings and drop him off at the train station. And if he tries to come back, tell him your
Mhm.
shit's at the train station, you can't come back. So, not long after that, she finally gets him out of her life, but this is five
Mhm.
months of hell. Plus, they have enough to charge him for sexual assault against her.
Yeah.
And he disappears.
Mhm.
And then one day she sees an obituary for him. And she said, I told my friends Psycho Boy is dead. She was so happy about that. And then she sees that he has been identified in Scotland.
Oh,
And she saw pictures of him and she said, well, he got older and fatter, but it was definitely him. I thought that was pretty great. And she actually contacted the authorities in America and helped them with
mhm.
everything that she knew
Oh, good
about
for
him.
her. Good.
So then we meet David Levitt. David Levitt was a DA in Utah County, Utah,
Mhm.
who, these are some of the original people looking for this asshole.
Right.
Where's my picture of him? This is David Levitt. So, David Levitt, it just kind of, he's one of the people looking for him. He's
Mhm.
behind a lot of the search for this guy. And unfortunately, David Levitt becomes a target
Oh,
for
yeah.
Rossi, like
Mhm.
majorly. And there's a whole connection to another case that we have covered. And I'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
But in the midst of this, they show like video of Nick showing up at court, and he's in his get up with his mask on and all the shit. And at
Mhm.
one
The
point,
hat and
yeah, at one point a reporter asks him, "So, are you done? You think you're cooked here?" And he goes, "Oh, is this the end of the game for you?" And he goes, "The game has just started. The game is afoot." You
oh,
know,
a foot. Yes.
Sherlock Holmes style, which was
Mhm.
pretty funny. Um, so the first time Rossi shows up in court, he's wearing like a burgundy dressing gown and
Yes.
slippers, and his whole getup.
Basically comes to court in his nightgown. Yeah.
Yes. Mark Horn described him at court as quoting Holmes dressed like a Batman villain, which I thought was really good. And at this point, they determined that Yeah, he is Nick Rossi.
Mm-hmm.
So they move him from jail to prison. And then he, he calls Miranda constantly, crying how hard this is. And she just appears to be buying it. And she's totally supporting him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oy. Let's see. So one of the cases in Utah, the main case in Utah, the victim's initials are KP. This actually happened in like 2008, but I don't know. They finally were like actually looking to charge him in 2020.
Yeah.
So that's the DNA that they used to identify him, because she knew her attacker, she knew who he was.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of where that got confirmed.
Right. Well, what wasn't he a BYU student, and she was as well?
Yeah, I think
He
so.
was. I don't know if she was. He was. It's why he was in Utah.
He was, yeah. I don't know that about her.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll get to. There are multiple Mormon connections to Nick, and this is one of the reasons why this case is so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll get to another one here in a minute. But they show a clip of him on TV. He refuses to take off the mask, and the reporter can't understand what the hell he's saying. But what he's saying is, the accusation is a storm in a teacup, and I am a hurricane. Like this. The accusation is a storm in a teacup, and I am a hurricane. That's what it sounds like. And Miranda is in every clip, translating his shit,
Mm-hmm.
putting up with all this crap. There was another journalist called Jane McSorley, and she gets very interested in him as well. And she goes to visit him in Scotland, and she's very confused because he just seems this guy's very charismatic. He was funny and friendly. Also he showed her his arms, and there were no tattoos. So by this point, he's gotten them totally removed.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't realize how good tattoo removal can be. She thought there would be scarring or something. Mm-hmm. They can get it all the way off now, and there just isn't.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. Where do I want to go from here? Oh, okay. So we jump back to when Nick fakes his death. Okay. So the FBI is looking for him. The local police are looking for him. The U.S. Marshals are looking for him.
Mm-hmm.
They reach out to Brian Coogan and tell him we're looking for him. All this stuff is going on with him, and so Brian Coogan tells him to turn himself in. He still has contact with him, has his phone number, and tells him to and turn himself in. And he's like, I fuck the U.S. Marshals. They can kiss my ass. And at one point, this guy's from Rhode Island. He has a great accent, and he says, I can't do it in the accent, but Nick, you don't amount to a pimple on an elephant's ass. You need to turn yourself in, which I thought was really funny. So around this same time, he calls up Bob Kerr. Remember, Bob Kerr is the guy that did the article on him about the DCYF situation. Called him and told him he was in Russia working. And he just wanted to check in with him and let him know he was okay. I'm sure in case any of these other officials got a hold of him and were like, hey, have you heard from Nick Rossi? Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, he's working in Russia. What? Working in Russia? Yeah, okay. Thank you, Lee. Lee says I'm telling this very well. So then he calls Bob Kerr later to tell him that he's got cancer. Just so you know, I've got cancer.
Oh, yes, of course. Mm-hmm.
Calls Brian Coogan, tells him he had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and has 2 weeks to live, and called to tell him goodbye. Now, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma is often very treatable. So I don't know why
Mhm.
he chose that cancer. He could have chose a lot worse one.
But also, what happens in 2 weeks, Nick? What happens? The
What
timer
happens in
dings
2
and you
weeks?
fall over dead? I mean,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, then he calls Bob Kerr again. No, he doesn't call. His wife, Louise, calls to say that Nick had died in a hospital in Russia and that she was planning a memorial service in Rhode Island. Still, like, it's just like cartoon villain shit, all of it.
Mhm.
So then Louise calls up Father Healy at a Catholic church because Nick was a devout Catholic. Was he though? Because he met his wife Catherine at a Mormon singles ward. So I don't think Nick was anything. Anyway,
He was baptized Mormon, I think, in like 20. I don't know. I would say 2006, something like that.
Something
and
like
was
that,
active
yeah.
in the Mormon church for about 4 years. But
Yeah, well, more than that, he married his wife Catherine in 2015
okay,
and met her at a Mormon singles ward.
single stance.
Crazy.
Oh,
We'll get there.
good Lord. Okay.
So Father Healy gets a call from Louise to set up the funeral. She's got this British accent. He said she sounded like Hyacinth Bouquet from Keeping Up Appearances, you know, the old British TV show. She told him that Nick had spoken so highly of him and really wanted him to be the one to do his funeral. He said that was weird because we barely knew each other. They planned this funeral by email, and that she was trying to make really grandiose arrangements. He said you would think that this funeral was for the Queen, the way they were trying to set it up. She said Nick's dying words were, "Fear not, and run into the bliss of the sun." And that, yeah. And that he died while listening to the film score from the movie Contact. Are you fucking kidding me right now? Yeah.
Oh, Nick. Oh, honey.
So he's trying to plan this funeral, and then Father Healy gets a call from a detective that says, "Don't do that funeral. That kid's not dead." But let me tell you, I want to tell you about his wife, Catherine, because holy shit. This was back in 2015. She met Nick at a Mormon singles ward meeting. They had a whirlwind romance and got married really fast. She said he appeared well off, educated, and kind, and that he gave her lots of gifts. Like, he really knew
Ooh, lots of love
how
bombing.
to, yeah, real love bomber. She just wanted a fairy tale wedding in life and was kind of naive, I think, and really thought that she had found her guy. It was sad. Immediately after the wedding, he started physically abusing her.
Oh.
He would take her phone and lock her in the bathroom for
Oh.
hours at a time with no food. And one time he locked her in the bathroom for 2 days with no food.
My God.
Yeah.
Oh.
He raped her regularly. 19 days after the wedding, he was arrested for domestic violence. But he had already gotten into her head and she blamed herself. She bailed him out. He tried to blackmail the detective on that case. He had her record a phone conversation he had with the detective where he tried to get the detective to admit that he hadn't really done anything wrong. And the detective wouldn't. And the detective had told Catherine, I drive by your house or send an officer by your house on a regular basis because he's going to kill you after the things that he had done. But he wouldn't buy into that at all. So at one point, when Catherine and Nick got married, they moved into Nick's house. And she was down in the basement of this house where he was living and found all these boxes, and she was kind of trying to straighten up down there. These boxes were full of these little black notebooks in Nick's handwriting. And they were these logs of women. All kinds of details about women all over the US, details about
Oh,
their schedules and their routines, tracking them, women he had been stalking.
holy shit.
She realized that she thinks he may have done the same thing to her.
Mm-hmm.
Um, she got really scared, kind of tried to confront him, and then ran from him. And he's chasing her. So that he's chasing her, and she's in her vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
She runs a red light and has a head-on collision while she's running from him. She doesn't even dare stop. She's so afraid he's
Uh-huh.
going to catch her. And of course, he runs off.
Mm-hmm.
So she manages to get a civil protection order against him and file for divorce and get away from him.
Mm-hmm.
And there was an arrangement where he was supposed to be able to let her go to the house to get her stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And she took her mother with her because she was really afraid of what would happen. When they got into the house, Nick wasn't there, but there was a gun sitting in the living room, just as a
As a reminder.
threat.
Oh my God.
They were married for 7 months before she managed to get away. Yikes, right?
Oh, that's horrifying.
Yeah. Let's see. So at one point, so then what we know now is that Nick faked his death 2 weeks after he married Miranda Knight.
Okay.
So he marries
That's how
Miranda
it
Knight.
lines up.
The timing lines up that, yeah, he married her, fakes his death 2 weeks later. Okay. And so as they're going through like all the shit with the courts in the UK, she's just behind him 100%. She, no doubt that there's no way he couldn't be this kind of guy, on and on and on. And then, so we go back to Jane McSorley. Jane McSorley is the reporter that got him to show her his arms.
Mm-hmm.
But now that the court has confirmed that he is Nick Rossi, she's like, holy shit, I have to figure out how can we identify this guy? How can we prove that it's him? So she asks him for a photo of his Irish driver's license, and he freaks out and won't send it to her because she realizes that he sees some older pictures. He sees some older pictures of him, and he has a really distinct tooth gap.
Mm-hmm.
And she's trying to get him to show her his face. And I can't find any pictures of the tooth gap that I could show you. I wish I could, but I couldn't find any. Anyway, she's trying to get him to show that, and he will not do it. But the court confirms his identity anyway. But she's like desperately trying to get some physical proof that she can show that it is him. But then the court's determined that it is him anyway.
Yeah.
Let's see. So David Levitt, okay, he's the DA in Utah County. He's the one that's kind of started the whole extradition thing. So once Nick has been arrested, he launches a hideous smear campaign against David Levitt.
Yes.
So David Levitt was a neighbor of David Hamblin. Do y'all remember who David Hamblin is? David Hamblin is a Utah therapist who, I think he's still awaiting trial at this point.
Yeah.
Who is accused of hideous sexual abuse of children in his neighborhood, sexual abuse of his patients over the years. Like, the dude probably has hundreds of victims.
Oh, yeah.
And Levitt arrested David Hamblin.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Hamblin puts out this horrible document in which he accuses David Levitt of leading a satanic cult that raped and murdered and ate children in Utah. Okay, this is very famous in Utah and Idaho. It's very famous among the Mormons because there's a lot of mythology that kind of stuff is actually real,
Mm-hmm.
and that those things really did happen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, David Hamblin is real, and he did horrible shit, and so did his
Yeah.
wife. However, his ex-wife. Anyway, so somehow this document gets to Nick Rossi
Mm-hmm.
in a Scottish jail.
Yeah.
How does he get this information? Well, there was a oh, Jess says she sent us a Discord pic with him of teeth showing. Thank you, Jess. David Levitt was about to be was up for re-election in his position as DA of Utah County. And the sheriff in Utah County doesn't like David Levitt.
Mm-hmm.
So this is an accusation. The Utah County Sheriff denies this, but the accusation that David Levitt made is that the Utah County Sheriff actually colluded with Nick Rossi, and Nick Rossi took the David Hamblin stuff and started spreading it to reporters in the UK. And then it gets back to Utah.
Mm-hmm.
And David Levitt lost the election. Lost his job. Nick Rossi got him fired, basically. He swears that that the sheriff of Utah County did it, but they deny it. We don't know. But that's the accusation.
Jesus.
So
somehow in this case, this all tracks.
I know, and it's so much. It's definitely one of those we need the board with the pins and the red string kind of situation. It's a lot of people. But here is, and I guess don't listen to this if you don't want this bomb to drop, but it won't matter. It's still very much worth watching. The reporter Jane McSorley is like, wait a minute. Has anybody ever heard, because there were a lot of questions about who is Louise that has set up the death stuff, right? And Jane McSorley is like, has anybody ever heard a recording of any of those conversations that she had with people? Well, guess what? Yeah, there was a recording. She got it. I think it was from Father Healy. I'm not exactly sure where it came from. But she hears the recording of Louise.
I'm pretty sure that was confirmed in the Rhode Island News a long time ago. In the Providence News. Yeah.
Yes, in the Providence News. Yes, because that is the other reporter that is major in all of this, and that's Tom Mooney. He's written 60 articles on Nick since 2010.
That's where we learned of this case, and really that's where almost everything we've learned about this case has come from. Yeah.
But remember that Jane McSorley has interviewed Miranda Knight several times, knows her, spoken to her many times, right? Has recordings of her voice. So she gets the recording of this, Louise recording. She says it is 100% Miranda Knight. That it has been Miranda,
innocent Knight?
That Miranda helped fake his death. Now, Miranda denies this, of course, but that's the accusation she's making. Also, guess what Miranda's middle name is? It's Louisa. Not the smartest name to choose.
Miranda.
So, and remember, he faked his death 2 weeks after their wedding.
Right.
And she swears that she knows nothing of this Nick person and that he would never do any of these things, blah, 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 blah. And she's so believable through all of it that she genuinely loves him and does not believe that he could do any of these terrible things. And then
But she has to
she
have known
helped
that
him
he had
fake
his
his death,
tattoos
guys.
removed.
Right? She has to know he had his tattoos removed. She had to have seen the
Him
tattoos.
get his tattoos
right?
removed. She probably paid for him to get his tattoos removed. They really ought to try and run down the shop who did the tattoo removal and get some proof from them.
Right.
I don't.
Who
They
did
probably
it?
don't need it anymore, but still, it would be nice to know who did it. Yeah.
It would. It really would. So that's where this ends for now, is him,
Mm-hmm.
he's, him being extradited to Utah. That's where this doc ends. But you guys,
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty amazing. There's some pretty good characters in it. And my God, this is an insane story.
Yeah, it is.
There are a couple of other crimes. I didn't get into all of them because we're already going way over our time. But anyway, what the hell?
Yeah.
Is Miranda Knight Louise?
Yes.
Jane McSorley swears she is. And you look at the timing of their wedding and all of it, how could she not have known?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so very interesting.
Yep.
Very, very interesting. So please go watch it. We're going to continue to share this stuff. And tonight, we're going to go out on, well, the song I wrote with the help of AI for Nick. We're just going to finish it out with that. So thank you all very much for being here. Thank you for supporting us and always being here for our crazy stories. We have been following him ever since he was identified in Scotland. And it's so interesting to finally get like so much more information about him. We will be back tomorrow at 3 p.m. Mountain with more stories for you. There are a lot of things happening. Also, interestingly, I just wanted to share this because Spirit just shared it. Spirit says that she heard that Simone Biles has announced her retirement to focus on her pregnancy. I have no idea if it's true or not.
It's so far a
I can't
rumor.
imagine she'd be true. Would she be pregnant? Well, I don't know. I mean, she could be early pregnant and doing what she's doing.
It's so far a rumor. She has not said so on Twitter. In fact, on Twitter, she said, "Please stop asking us what's next. The moment we win a medal, let us soak up the moment we've been fighting for, for all our lives." So I don't know if
Absolutely.
it's true or not.
I don't know, but that's very interesting. All right. Well, I'm going to send you out with Nick, not Arthur. So you know it. We are the True Crime Squad. Thank you all so much for being here.
Goodbye.
Nick was a man with a troubled past. He faked his death, thought he was free at last. Flew to Scotland with a brand new name. Called himself Arthur, played a clever game. Arthur's got a mystery, Nick's the man you'll never see. Caught in Scotland's history, who is he supposed to be? Arthur's got a mystery, Nick's the man you'll never see. Sent back to Utah, he'll face the jury. Arthur donned the cloak and spoke with flair. Old English accent filled the air. Pretended to be sick with oxygen to share. In a wheelchair, he rolled everywhere. Arthur's got a mystery, Nick's the man you'll never see. Caught in Scotland's history, who is he supposed to be? Arthur's got a mystery, Nick's the man you'll never see. Sent back to Utah, he'll face the jury. Nick's reflection stared back at him in the cell. Arthur's story was starting to swell. Two lives tangled in a web of deceit. Could Nick ever admit his defeat? Back in Utah he stood in court, insisting he's Arthur in Old English thought. "Thee hath wronged me," he did proclaim, but the evidence was clear, 'twas all a game. Arthur's got a mystery, Nick's the man you'll never see. Caught in Scotland's history, who is he supposed to be? Arthur's got a mystery, Nick's the man you'll never see. Sent back to Utah, he'll face the jury. Nick's got his trial, the truth is out. Arthur's gone, without a doubt. Now he faces what he ran from before. Nick and Arthur, there'll be no more. Thank you.